I'll do a real one there. We'll call the Thursday, September 10th, 2020 Hayes City Commission meeting to order. That's one. First item on the agenda is the consideration of approval of the minutes from the regular meeting held on August 27, 2020. Are there any changes?
I have none.
No.
Stand as written. Any citizen comments for non-agenda items? Seeing none, we have no consent agenda items. So the next business would be the Stormwater Retention Mitigation Project. Jesse Rohr.
Good evening, Jesse Rohr, Director of Public Works. So I want to talk to you tonight about a stormwater retention project, proposed project that we'd like to begin construction on sometime soon. So I'll show some visuals here in a moment, but first I'll go over a couple details of the project itself. This is a project that's located north of I-70, the west side of Vine, just to the west of the location where the new Hilton Garden Inn is being constructed. One thing I want to make sure and mention about this before I go too much further is not only are we doing this project for volume of water or water quantity, but also it serves a component of water quality. The project itself, I'll show more details here in a second, but it is also designed, engineered to clean and filter the water coming through it, and that does meet some of the requirements of our MS4 KDHE permit for stormwater, and will in the future provide us credits towards our required best management practices. So a little bit more about the location of the project. Hopefully you can see this okay. So I've labeled a couple of the businesses. Obviously this is I-70 here, you have Vine Street here, going north. The Walmart facility just behind that to the west is the Hilton Garden Inn and Convention Center project that's under construction currently. And so just to the west of that, there's an area identified. It's a current stream area. It is protected by a stream buffer. And we would like to utilize that area for an area of stormwater retention for some benefits of downstream. So I added a map in here that I didn't have in here last week just to provide you a little bit bigger picture of the area and how the downstream, how it affects areas downstream. So towards the north again, you can see the Walmart. Here's the Hilton Garden Inn facility. This area right here is the area of the proposed stormwater retention. So there is a crossing under I-70 in this area. Currently exists. That water flows on south. You can kind of barely see kind of a draw coming here where it enters a storm system underground at the very north edge of Willow. From there, it flows into a 42-inch pipe that transitions to a 60-inch and then dumps into Lincoln Draw right at 33rd Street. So that kind of gives you the picture of the retention area. Obviously, most of you probably know that once it reaches Lincoln Draw at 33rd Street, it flows on south, eventually hits Van Dorn Pond, continues south of 27th, through Lincoln Draw, and enters Lincoln Tunnel there at 19th. So throughout the project, or for the project, there's two basins. It's one project, but there's two separate basins that are connected to each other. So again, this red area is the Hilton Garden Inn area. 43rd Street, as you know, was extended as part of that project, ends about right to the west edge of the Hilton property. And future 43rd Street will continue west and north and eventually connect to 48th Street. So the area highlighted in yellow are the two retention basins that are proposed. The south one, the smaller one here, between I-70 and the proposed 43rd Street, would for the most part serve the Hilton Garden Inn property, would serve the acreage here for this property. The remainder would not only serve the undeveloped property, but also has enough capacity to be built into it to serve an area that would provide more protection downstream in the Lincoln Draw watershed. The system itself is designed based on a drainage study that was performed by Driggs Design Group here in Hayes. I clipped one page out of the 18-page document set of the engineered drawings. And again, I do want to point out that the Direction has changed. North is to the right of the screen here, but again, you can see I-70 would be here on the left. Here's the small basin I mentioned, 43rd Street, and then the larger basin. The larger basin, as I mentioned, would not only serve the capacity for the remainder of the undeveloped property, but has capacity of about 170,000 cubic feet to provide additional capacity for water before it reaches the areas downstream. The bottom of that drainage area, I mentioned the water quality component, so the bottom is designed with a particular soil mixture and particular plants that again provide kind of a bioswale type of design, allow water to be filtered, have infiltration more than you would with standard soil, and also, like I say, provide a water cleaning component before it crosses I-70 and goes on downstream. I mentioned the engineered drawing, so the project is already engineered and is ready to construct. Construction would be by the owner. Mark Otley is the owner of the property, all the undeveloped property in there. And by constructing this retention area, what it does is serves the remainder of his undeveloped property so that those properties don't have to each individually provide on-site stormwater management for their developments as they come forward in the future. So there is a long-term benefit and added benefit for each of those lots, not having to utilize space within their lot, as the stormwater retention that's required will already be built into the development. The agreement you have in your packet does require the construction to be complete within 90 days of agreement of the execution of the agreement, and it also requires long-term maintenance of the BMP, we call it, or the retention area. Will fall upon the owner or successors of the owner in the future, however that works out through the agreement as he sells property in the future. Funding for this project is set aside back in 2016, or late 2016, early 2017. Many of you remember the Tebow Village project that's located there at 43rd and Vine on the east side of Vine. That particular project, rather than do an on-site stormwater management, we had an agreement with them where they provided cash in lieu of on-site stormwater. There were some challenges on that site, and also we knew that that watershed, being the Chatola Draw watershed, versus the Lincoln Draw watershed on the west side of Vine, we knew we could get more benefit in the future if the right project came along and the right opportunity, if we could spend that money in the Lincoln Draw watershed, which does have some flooding issues downstream, versus Chatola, which does not at this time. So the funds were set aside at that time, paid for by the developer of the Tebow project. And we've basically been waiting for that opportunity to utilize some of these funds for projects such as this to provide an added benefit to the downstream Lincoln Draw. So funds would be directly from the Stormwater Reserve account. Like I say, these funds are set aside. This particular agreement states that the city would pay the owner, Mark Otley in this case, $130,000 for the construction of the extra capacity of the stormwater, as well as, besides the actual initial construction, we're getting the protection of that stream basically forever, and maintenance of it as a stormwater retention area. So your options, you could approve the agreement as proposed and drafted, or not approve the agreement. And this would be the action requested should you consider doing so. And if you have any questions or need me to go to the map, let me know and I can do that. So.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the city manager to execute an agreement between the City of Hayes and MAO Investments, LLC, to allow for the expenditure of $130,000 in stormwater reserve funds for the construction of a stormwater retention facility as further described within the agreement.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Jesse, how deep is this going to be, this retention pond? Do you have any idea?
I believe at the deepest it's approximately 6 feet.
Okay, okay.
give or
So,
take, and it's not designed to hold water long term. Ideally, within 72 hours after rain, the water's gone. With any of our stormwater retention BMPs, that 72 hours is kind of key. You have longer standing, longer than 72 hours, you start having other issues, and it means it's not functioning. It's not doing its job at that point. So that's the goal for this one as well.
so there won't have to be any safety things taken, such as a fence or anything like that around it.
Correct. And it will act similar to, even our, at times we do have maybe a little bit of standing water, even running water in our other draws. This should act in a similar nature. Like I say, hopefully the water, if built according to design and designed correctly, which we believe it is, that water won't be there. It is sloped. It's a manageable slope on the side, so it can be maintained and mowed accordingly. In the bottom, it'll probably be treated like our other draws, where we have the native vegetation, native flowers, things like that in there. Again, help with the infiltration and the quality of the water.
Okay, thank you.
Jesse, does this have any effect on the property south of 41st Street that's undeveloped right now for their stormwater retention, should they ever develop?
Likely not, since it's upstream. Now, what it might do is reduce the rate of the volume of water coming down on the property south of 41st. They would likely need something, as they construct an impervious surface on that property, would have to do additional stormwater management. But this could come into play, and like I say, it hopefully only has the effect of making it better. Hopefully staying the same, but hopefully, even better yet, we're making a better situation and definitely not worse. So.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll take the motion to a vote. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
Okay, Commissioner inquiries and comments. Commissioner Melick.
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Commissioner Burgess.
No, you did a fantastic job as mayor tonight.
I still have 2 mistakes I can make, and it's getting close to the end. So, okay. I have nothing this evening. Just everybody have a safe and fun weekend, and go Chiefs. Okay, and we'll adjourn at 6:42.